Hello and welcome to Temple Sinai of Palm Beach County. And I'm Rabbi Aviva Bass. I'm the rabbi here, and I will be officiating today at the memorial service to honor the memory of Donald Pasternak. Don was a member of our congregation, a very beloved member, and we miss him a lot. And it is wonderful to be able to do this in our own sanctuary space where he felt so comfortable. For Don's love that united you in life and which death cannot sever, for his companionship that you shared along life's path and which continues now through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and mind that brought you joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance, for all these and more, we give our thanks to God. If you would open your memorial booklet to the second page from Ecclesiastes 3. Please read responsively, reading the italicized English. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And now, of course, is a time to remember. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people that I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. And at this time, I'd like to call up Susan Pasternak to read a reflection.
Birth is a beginning and death is a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity, and youth to age, from innocence to awareness, and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death is a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting.
Thank you, Susan. So let's hear a little bit about Don's journey through this life. Donald Sheldon Pasternak was born on April 17th, 1933, in the Bronx in New York City. His parents, Julius and Evelyn, moved Don and his younger sister, Barbara, to Plainfield, New Jersey, and then Long Branch, New Jersey, following the work his father obtained as a manager of a shoe store. During that time, Don's father was also a volunteer fireman and a Democratic committeeman in Plainfield. His mother worked as a volunteer at Camp Kilmer during the war at the USO there, and they were very social action-minded people. Don told us stories of the anti-Semitism he experienced as a young man. This is from the, when I say us, I mean his children. They wrote this. Don told his children stories of the anti-Semitism he experienced as a young man, as well as his experience watching young blacks being mistreated, and he stood up for human rights for the disenfranchised throughout his life. Don's family could not afford college, so Don talked about how the American Legion was very instrumental in getting the GI Bill through Congress, and he was a member till the day he passed away. Don joined the Navy and worked as a naval aviator and had many interesting and heroic stories to tell about his experiences, particularly of his time in Key West, Florida. After his honorable discharge from the Navy in 1955, Don attended college at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, graduating with a degree in material engineering. Rutgers changed his life, and in his words, he said, "I am forever grateful for what Rutgers has done for me. I love the school, and I'm beholden to it." He then went on to get his MBA at NYU in 1959. Don married Phyllis in 1956, and they had 3 sons, Alan, Jonathan, and Andrew, and 1 daughter, Bonnie. The 4 children together gave Don 12 grandchildren. Sadly, Phyllis passed away of cancer in 1997, a truly difficult time for the Pasternak family. Don started his own business, developed the technology himself, and built a factory manufacturing architectural exterior cladding. He had a longtime business partner, Fred Altman. In 2002, Don decided to look for a new partner, a new life partner, and was looking on Yahoo Personals when he found the profile of Tama Bruder, posted by her daughters. And this is what it said. It said, "Looking for a mensch to spend good times with." Tama had also lost her husband, Bert, to cancer. Don responded to this ad, and 2 years later, Don and Tama were married in 2004, surrounded by their families. And they became truly one family. Don added more members to his family, 2 more daughters, Ellen and Leslie, and a son, Jay, as well as 3 more grandchildren. He treated his new family with complete love, respect, and inclusiveness, sharing all of his endless knowledge, wisdom, and quick wit with them. Don and Tama spent 19 years together, enjoying their families and the temple, particularly the choir, of which they were proud members. And they would sit right there. That is the choir loft, and they would sit and sing. Don had a beautiful deep voice. He was the bass of the choir, and also was a major opera buff and taught many classes over the years. Don also loved his sports, in particular the New York Mets, and more recently, the Miami Heat. Don was a proud graduate of Rutgers University and absolutely loved watching the Scarlet Knights play basketball and football, even up till his last days. He wanted to know the scores and watch if he could. Don and Tama were also wonderful volunteers in the community. They both volunteered for the soup kitchen and carved turkeys for the homeless every Thanksgiving. Don also was the founder of Meals on Wheels in the Boynton Beach area. Don was a huge lover of classical music, in particular Mahler's symphonies. And when he and Tama first became members here, he actually lent me a DVD about what the universe tells me and how to interpret Mahler's Third Symphony with a different understanding. And it was a really wonderful thing to watch and hear and to discuss with him afterward. Don loved his summers at Tanglewood, listening to the Boston Symphony Orchestra concerts, as well as watching the Miami Ballet at the Kravis Center, where he had purchased his tickets for 2022, fully expecting to be able to attend in person. Don loved Tama dearly and always had a twinkle in his eye when he spoke her name. They enjoyed the littlest things together, doing a puzzle, watching Hallmark movies, playing dominoes, but most of all, just sitting together in their two recliners and appreciating the time that they had together. The past 2 years, during this time of pandemic, were very difficult for Don and Tama. They lost the opportunity to work at the soup kitchen, sing in the choir here, attend the ballet, or travel to visit their family. But their love of one another kept them going. Don will be missed by so many of his friends and family members, but they will all, and you will all, keep his memory alive and real with your love for him and for one another. In addition to his wife Tama and his sister Barbara, Don leaves his son Alan and fiancée Laura, his son Jonathan and his wife Stephanie, his son Andrew and his wife Susan, his daughter Bonnie, his daughter Ellen and husband Harvey, his daughter Leslie, his son Jay and his wife Kim, and his grandchildren Katie, Grayson, and Rebecca, Hannah, Jonah, and Eli, James, Emma, and Joshua, Roman, Alexis, and Jasmine, Eric, Kristen, and Joey, and his great-grandson, Keith. And of course, will be missed by his many friends. He also had special cousins, including Melvin and Beverly, Bubbles, David, Debbie, and Evan. And at this time, I would like to invite Andrew Pasternak up to give his reflections. They're on.
Okay, if I take this up? Yeah, okay. All right, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. First of all, thanks to Leslie and Alan for organizing this. That was very thoughtful. And we're happy to be here today. I'm here with my wife, Susan, and our son, Josh. It's confusing. So I thought a little bit about what I was going to say today, and it occurred to me that, the people here got to know Don really well over the last 20 years and became very close to him, but unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to know him in the first 65 or so years of his life. So I thought I would reflect on that period of his life, and particularly my experience with him growing up, and just share some thoughts about him. So one of the first things that I thought I would share is about my father in the context of our family, and a family that really was, from a parenting perspective, at the leading edge of the evolution in gender roles in our society. It's not something that we really talk about, but as I reflected on it, I think it's pretty notable where they were in the 60s and the 70s when the family structure was very traditional, and the father went to work and the mother stayed at home, and the mother took care of the children, et cetera. And my parents really were part of the redefinition of those roles. And my mother, relatively late in life, I think she was in her late 30s, went back to law school, got a law degree, took on a whole profession of being a very successful attorney. And my father assumed a lot more of the parenting responsibilities, and I was a fortunate benefactor of that. As a child, as the youngest child still in the household, my father was really involved in parenting. I think more consistent with what modern, fathers do. He was, he drove me to school every day. Small things. He cooked for us. He was very engaged in our personal lives. He would take me to the Philharmonic. He coached my Little League team. He was a very involved father. And he also, in other ways, he also broke the mold of the traditional father figure, in that he was very affectionate and he was very loving. You knew that he loved you. And that had a really profound impact on us. I think it really helped his children build productive and open and supportive relationships with our significant others. So another thing that occurred to me is that my father was just a very kind and caring individual. He was a warm person. Everyone liked my father. My mother was a little bit more of a controversial figure, but my father was just a warm person. People liked him. Actually, a story about that, a very personal story, when my father decided to coach my Little League team in the first season. I think I was 9 or 10 at the time, and there was a boy on the team who was not any good at baseball and was just a very socially awkward child and struggling already at that age to relate and be comfortable. And my father spent so much time with this boy in building his confidence, not only in baseball, but in just as a person. And his father was so grateful for the impact you could see in just this short period of time over the course of this season, the impact that my father had on this young man. And at our banquet, as a thank you, at the banquet at the end of the season, this father was so thankful, so grateful to my father, that he brought him up to the bar and bought him a martini. And then he bought him another martini. And then he bought him another martini. And I didn't understand at the time, only being 9 or 10, I didn't understand why my father slept on the family room floor that night and never made it up to the bedroom. But now as an adult, obviously, I have a greater appreciation for that. Another thing about my father, I think we all know that my father was a very smart person, right? But what was more notable to me was how intellectually curious he was. And there are a lot of smart people in the world, but being smart and being intellectually curious are different things, and he really did embody that. He wanted to understand the world around him in so many broad ways, and his knowledge and thirst for knowledge and being a student of history and art and culture was really exceptional. There were very few people that I knew that were like that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention his true love of the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's actually his original sports love. It wasn't the Mets that became the Mets. But I think about the fact that in 1955, when my father was 22 years old, the Brooklyn Dodgers finally won the World Series. After losing to the Yankees, I actually had to look this up, in 1947, 1949, 1952, and 1953. Josh, think of that. Imagine if the Cubs had lost 4 out of 6 or 7 years to their chief rival, and they finally won the World Series in 1955, and he had, till his final day, he has this poster of the Dodgers. And I just think about him as a 22-year-old, kind of full of energy and his whole life ahead of him, and how excited he must have been. And I wish that I could have known him then, when he was experiencing all that. So my father is going to be in all of our hearts always. And there are things that just trigger memories of him already since he's passed. if we go to the racetrack, or when we're at the beach or the ocean. My father loved the ocean. He loved swimming in the ocean. Whenever I'm, driving in the car and I'm listening to music that he hated, I will remember the days when he drove me to and from school and made me listen to Mahler and Beethoven and all these other things. So as a closing thought on a personal note, when my children were, in recent years, as they've grown into adolescenthood, they would experience growing pains, as we all do, physically. And I would sit them down on the couch and I would let's say if their knee hurt, I'd put my hand on their knee and I would close my eyes and concentrate, and suddenly would feel better. And maybe this was the warmth, a little bit of placebo effect, but I think of who taught me how to do that, and it was my father. I remember him, sitting on our family room couch and holding my knee when I had pain, and he got me through my growing pains. And I think of my father as that. He's someone who got us all through our growing pains and successfully raised a family and got us into adulthood. So thanks, Dad, for that, wherever you are, and thanks for everyone for being here today.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Andrew. And now I'd like to invite Ellen and Harvey to come up and give some reflections. Ellen and Harvey Abramowitz.
After Andy, I can't even talk. That was beautiful. Thank you, Andy.
Special.
So I'm going to just say a few words, and then Harvey is going to talk. I just want to thank Dad for being there for our mom. I can't even read my writing. We knew Mom should not be by herself after our dad, Bert, passed away, but we could never have imagined what a great guy she would meet. We spent the last 17 years double dating, spending all our free time with you and Mom, precious time we will never forget. Weeks in the Berkshires or just hanging out together in Boston or here in Boynton Beach playing games. Dad walked Harvey down the aisle. Harvey had lost his parents, just a few months before our wedding. And he needed someone to walk him down the aisle, and Dad was there, Don was there. He just was an incredible man, as Andy explained. We all had different experiences of him, but he was kind, he was gentle. I mean, at first, when I first met Don, I didn't know that about him. I really didn't. We were just trying to understand each other. We were all coming from different places. We had just lost our dad. I just lost my first husband, Mark, Eric's dad. And it was a very painful time, and we didn't know much about each other. But as time went on, we learned about each other, and he was there for all of us, and he really cared about us. So we just want you to know, Dad, that we will watch over Mom, and we'll take care of her. And we'll never forget our amazing times as a family that we spent together. And I loved watching the two of you sing together here in choir. This temple is wonderful, and we're glad that you found this home, and I'm hoping Mom will be able to come back and sing here in the choir. So we had Dad's choir robes out there. So Harvey, you'd like to say a few words?
Adding to Ellen's words and the expressions that everybody's given so far, I thought what I would do is share with you some words of Don that he provided to us. We had Don and Tam as guests in our house several times. And on this one particular occasion, a year before Ellen and I got married, he left us a note. Who leaves a note? You have a house guest, they're gracious, maybe they'll give us a little gift when they leave for our accommodations. But he left a note, and I thought it was so touching and indicative of his character that I'd read it to you. It's brief. It goes like this. Dear Ellen and Harvey, and this was August 2014. Dear Ellen and Harvey, Tama and I have so enjoyed our 2 weeks with both of you. You have been so considerate and accommodating. Ellen, you are the best social director we have ever encountered, making our visit even more delightful. Harvey, you have been so gracious to Tama and me, and to thank you both from the bottom of our hearts. However, the best pleasure you have provided is just to see the two of you interacting and making it so obvious to us that what a great match you have nurtured and developed. I have never seen Ellen so happy. Not knowing Harvey prior to his coming into our life, I have a good idea that he's experiencing happiness that has been alluded heretofore. So true. May God grant us many more years to have you both in our lives. Signed, DP. And Mom added, I love you, Harvilla, and signed it, Mom.
And now I'd like to invite Leslie Bruder to come and give her reflections.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? So, like Ellen said, when my dad passed, I thought there would never be another father figure in my life. And I remember when I met Don, at first, he wouldn't allow Benny into the bedroom, my mom's dog. And I thought, I'm not going to like this person. He won't even allow the dog in. But then he explained to me that my mom was priority. And he wanted her in the bed, not the dog. And it went on from there. Seeing how much he adored my mom was the greatest gift ever. He loved her so deeply and so purely. And I would say, Dad, doesn't this bother you or that bother you? And he says, I'm not letting anything bother me because life is precious and love is what we're here for. And I just want to focus on what I love about your mom. She's an amazing, amazing person. I remember one time I got mad at you, Mom, for something that was reminding me of a childhood issue we had. And he said, look at your mom. Just look at her. She is the sweetest, kindest person I've ever met. How can you be mad at her? And I realized in that moment that I was holding on to stuff from the past, and it was nothing to do with reality. So he shifted my relationship with my mom. He shifted my relationship with the world because he taught me so much. He used to say to me, you have such a brain. I wish I could just have it and teach you a lot of these things that I ignored in the world. And in the 19 years I knew him, he taught me so much about opera. Opera, what was that? He would get so excited. He'd be like, and then she fell in love with him, and he fell in love with her, and da-da-da-da. And I was like, wow, I thought opera was nothing. But it was amazing. And same with classical music. I'd go to a concert with him, and his fingers were going, bup, 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 bup. He was composing, he was conducting the whole symphony while he watched it. So just to watch and experience the twinkle, the light in his eye when he described anything, whatever it was, whatever story he told, he was like, okay, let me tell you this. And he just told it with such vigor and such profundity and passion that you couldn't help but fall in love with whatever it was he was describing. So because of my dad, I have become a better person. And he is my dad, and he always will be. He told me once, I said, so tell me what you have to say about relationships. And he said, I put your mom's needs first, and then she puts my needs first, and that's how we'll get along forever. And so that's a gift that he gave to me, along with his gazpacho recipe, his applesauce recipe, and his banana pancake recipe. And there's no words to say how amazing he was as a father, as a person, as a husband. And I love you, Dad, forever, and he'll always be with me, especially when I hear any kind of classical music. So thank you, Dad.
If you look at the program, you'll see that there are some readings here, and I'd like to invite Josh Pasternak to come and read the first.
There are stars whose radiance is visible on earth, though they have long been extinct. There are people whose brilliance continue to light the world even though they are no longer among the living. These lights are particularly bright when the night is dark. They light the way for humankind.
Thank you. And now Eric Bruder Moore and Savannah, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. Cuevas, Savannah Cuevas will read. Thank you.
Peace, my heart, let the time for the passing be sweet, parting be sweet.
Let it not be death, but completeness.
Let love melt into memory and pain into songs.
Let the flight through the sky end in the folding of the wings over the nest.
Let the last touch of your hands be gentle like the flowers of the night.
Stand still, O beautiful end, for a moment, and say your last words in silence.
I bow to you and hold up my lamp to light you on your way.
And now Jay Bruder will read a reading.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. From the moment I wake till I fall asleep, all that I do is remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember them. On the frigid days of winter, in the moments I breathe the cold air, I warm myself with their embrace and remember them. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. As the days grow longer and the outside becomes warmer, I am more awake and I remember them.
Don loved Stephen Sondheim, and of course West Side Story was by Bernstein and Sondheim together, and he loved this piece of music. So I'm going to begin singing this on the back of your program. There's a place for us, and join with me. There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet and open air, wait for us somewhere. There's a time for us, someday a time for us, time together with time to spare, time to learn, time to care, someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living, we'll find a way of forgiving, somewhere. There's a place for us, a time and place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere. We rise now for the El Mali Rahmeen prayer to honor the deceased. El Mali Rahmeen, Shochin Bamramim, Hamatzim Minuchan Chana, Tachat Kanfei, Hashchim. במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת דוד בן יוסף ידע ואבלין שהלך לעולמו. אנו בעל הרחמים הסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצורה חיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו. ונאמר Amen. We read together. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the divine presence in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure. Therefore, may the all-merciful one shelter him with the cover of his wings forever, and bind his soul in the bond of life. The Lord is his heritage. May he rest in his resting place in peace. And let us all say, Amen. This concludes this portion of our memorial for Don. We are holding off on the mourner's Kaddish until we are at the Veterans Cemetery. And I know that we have a very strict deadline because the Veterans Cemetery waits for no one. They are right on time with military precision. So without further ado, I wish you all long life. Those of you who are not joining us, I wish you many simchas in the future. Those who are joining us from afar, I wish you long life as well. And let us take our leave, and I will join you at the Veterans Cemetery. Thank you.